Hey YouTube, this is Mad Movie Mark, another Mad Movie Mark movie review. Thank you for joining me as I review the 1942 fantasy romantic comedy, Here Comes Mr. Jordan.
That's bad. Bad?
Oh, it's deplorable.
Very bad. This complicates everything.
Hey, this isn't going to be a bad review. I'm reviewing all the movies that have 100% fresh rating on Rotten Tomatoes. I'll give them all a score of 1 to 10. After I review them all and score them all, I will rank them from worst to best. I started in the 1920 silent movie era, and now I'm at 1942 with Here Comes Mr. Jordan. So this movie won 2 Academy Awards: Best Writing and Original Story, Best Writing Original Screenplay. It was also nominated for Best Leading Actor for Robert Montgomery, Best Actor Supporting for James Gleason, Best Director Alexander Hall, and Best Cinematography Joseph Walker. So this movie stars Robert Montgomery as Joe Pendleton, Claude Rains as Mr. Jordan, Evelyn Keyes as Bet Logan, James Gleason as Max Corkle, and Edward Horton as Messenger 703. So Claude Rains, we've already seen. He was in The Adventures of Robin Hood. Very good in that movie. If you remember, I gave that movie a 10 out of 10. He will also be in at least one more movie, Treasure of the Sierra Madre, and that's only because Casablanca does not have a 100% rating, or he would be in that one too. So this movie essentially starts, we meet Joe Pendleton, played by Robert Montgomery. He is a prize fighter.
Slaughter that Murdoch.
Okay, Joe, that's enough.
Come on, Max. Hey.
Only had 5 rounds. Can't I have a couple more?
And he is getting ready to fight for the title, basically. His next bout that he has scheduled, I believe, is the one before the title, and then he fights for the title. So he, on his way to traveling to this title fight, he decides he's going to fly in his plane. He is a pilot as well. His manager, James Gleason, who's Max Corkle, begs him to not fly this plane because you can just get there on a bus. There's no reason to fly the plane. But he says, I'm the Flying Pug. That's my nickname. Everyone expects me to fly. So he flies. And as he's flying the plane, he starts playing his saxophone. He has a lucky saxophone that he takes everywhere. And he doesn't hear that the wing of the plane is coming apart. And the plane eventually tumbles to the ground and explodes on impact. We then see Messenger 7013 and Joe Pendleton walking in the clouds. It appears that Joe has passed away from this plane crash. They run into Mr. Jordan, and Messenger 7013 says, hey, this guy's giving me a lot of trouble here. He won't accept the fact that he's dead, and he won't come with me. So Mr. Jordan says, well, is there some mistake? There can't be any mistake, right? And Joe Pendleton says, yes, there's a mistake. I have a prize fight. I have a title fight I have to go to. I can't be dead. This is terrible timing. So they check upstairs and see if he's actually supposed to be dead, and they learn that he was killed 50 years before he was supposed to.
There's no Pendleton Joseph listed.
What did I tell you?
Oh, it can't be possible. There must be some explanation.
I hope there is.
1991. That's 50 years from now. What did I tell you?
It seems you were a little premature.
So he was actually supposed to survive that plane crash, and the reason why he didn't was because Messenger 7013 took him out of the plane before it actually crashed so that he wouldn't have to go through a horrible death like that. So basically Messenger 7013 made a mistake. He should have just let the crash run its course and everything would have been fine. So they say, well, now we need to get him back to his body. Hurry, before they bury it or they do something with it. So they go back to his hometown and they try to find his body, and they realize that his body has been cremated.
We brought these. Kind of late, but you see, we didn't know where that place was. You know, the
crematory, yeah.
Which is terrible because now there's nobody for him to go back to, and he is owed another 50 years on the planet. So Mr. Jordan says, let's have a compromise. What we can do is we can get you another body, and you can pick from thousands of bodies. There's going to be a lot of options for you. And once you find the right one, the one you want to go to, then you can just inhabit that body and you can live out the rest of this person's life. And he's like, wait a minute, I don't want someone else's life. I'm not looking for anything special. I just want my life. I like being a prize fighter. I like being in the pink. He keeps saying that his body is in the pink, which means that he's like a perfect specimen for fighting. And he says, I don't want to do anything else in my life. This is what I'm supposed to do. So Mr. Jordan convinces him, well, at least let's take a look at what we have to offer here. So he ends up going down to Earth, and after looking over hundreds of bodies, they find this gentleman named Mr. Farnsworth. And they're in Mr. Farnsworth's living room. No one can hear or see Joe or Mr. Jordan, which is a concept that Joe has a very hard time accepting and understanding, that no one can hear him or see him. He has this problem throughout the entire movie, basically. He just forgets that no one can see him or hear him, even though it's a very important aspect of the movie. So they're in his living room, and Joe's kind of questioning him on Farnsworth, like, what's going on with him? How's he going to die? Like, what am I getting myself into? Mr. Jordan says, well, he's going to be murdered by his wife and by his secretary.
Fine body you want to make me a present of. Guy drinks himself into an early grave.
Oh, no, he didn't.
He's just slightly run down. He's going to die, that's all.
He's being murdered, Joe.
Because they want to be in a relationship together. Mr. Farnsworth is a millionaire, and they want his millions, and they feel like the best way to do that is to kill him. Joe says, no way, I don't want any part of this. Like, if I take over his body, then I don't want people after me. I don't want people trying to kill me. Deal's off. We're not doing this body. Let's go do a different body. But then Betty Logan walks into the room, and she demands to see Mr. Farnsworth. I guess Mr. Farnsworth bought a bunch of fake securities, or sold a bunch of fake securities to her dad, which caused him to go to jail because he sold these fake securities to other investors. I don't know if he knew that they were fake. I don't remember if the movie tells us, but she wants to talk to him because she wants to figure out a way to get her dad out of jail, and she really wants to just give him the business. Now, Joe is emotionally kind of attached to this girl. He feels sorry for her, and he says, how about this? How about I help her out, and then once I help her out, you can put me in a different body. But I just want to make sure that her dad is able to get out of jail because this probably wasn't his fault. So Mr. Jordan says, sure, if that's what you want to do, it's up to you. We have to make this good for you. So if you get in his body and then you realize you don't want to be him anymore, then just call me. I'll be here whenever you need me, and we'll get you into a different body. So he said, great, that's a good idea. So he ends up so when Mr. Farnsworth dies, he ends up taking over Farnsworth's body. When he first comes into the body, he looks in the mirror. He says, hey, I still look like Joe. This didn't work. And then Mr. Jordan says, no, like, when you look at yourself, you will look like Joe. But when everyone looks at you and hears you, when everyone else looks at you and hears you, they will only hear and see Mr. Farnsworth, which is kind of another problem that he has understanding and accepting throughout the whole movie also.
Your father's in jail to stay.
Mr. Farnsworth.
Bruce.
Hello.
So he goes downstairs, and of course his wife and his assistant, his secretary, are shocked to see him because they just killed him. So how is he still alive? So he goes into the room, and he has a bit of an awkward first meeting with Betty because he tries to tell her the story about how he is like not who she thinks he is, and he's actually like a good person, even though she's never seen this before. He basically gives her a lot of information she's not ready for, nor does she need or want. All she wants is for her father to be out of jail. So she leaves thinking that he's just playing a game with her and he's not sincere about what's going on. After he leaves, he realizes that he has fallen magically in love with her and that he wants to pursue this as much as possible. So what he does is he buys all these bad securities from the investors. That way no one was actually defrauded. They all get their money back. And then Betty's father is let out of jail.
For it.
That'll take millions of dollars.
Have I got it?
Oh, really, sir?
Have I?
Many times that amount.
All right, let's do it.
Out of prison. She is, of course, very ecstatic about this. She goes to meet him, she goes to thank him, and then we start feeling that maybe she's also falling in love with him, because she says that when she looked in his eyes, she thought she saw someone different, and it was not what she expected. And she heard and everything she knew about Farnsworth seems to be wrong. So they start kind of falling for each other.
I always thought I'd be afraid of you. But something happened. You were so different. Strangely enough, when I was trying to hate you most, I couldn't deny there was something warm and friendly, even gentle.
Then Mr. Jordan comes down and he says, well, do you still want to go to another body now that you've helped her out? And he says, well, here's the thing. Like, I think that I can get this Farnsworth body in shape. I think I can get him in the pink. And then I can just fight with this body. That would be perfect. I'll be a prize fighter. And then I'll have the love of Betty. That's everything that I want right now. And Mr. Jordan says, great, that's a great idea. I like it. So Farnsworth / Joe ends up calling his manager over. His manager's a bit confused because he doesn't know why he's being asked to join Mr. Farnsworth in their conversation. Manager is Max Corkle, who's played by James Gleason. And then Joe ends up telling him the story about what happened, about Mr. Jordan. And of course, Max thinks he's crazy, but then he ends up telling Max a bunch of information that only he would know. He has the lucky saxophone, and he convinces Max that he actually is Joe in a different body, that he actually lived, and he is in this person's body.
Explain that story when you saw me put away Butcher Boy Mackenzie. You said I had color. You said I had what they wanted. And how's your sister Rosie and the 3 kids? Have the twins gotten over the measles yet?
Say, who are you anyway?
I'm Joe.
Hey, that's Joe.
And he says, look, I want to get in shape, and I want that prize fight that I was supposed to have. I want to fight Murdoch like I was supposed to, so you need to get me on the ticket. Money's no object. Whatever you need, I'm a millionaire. Just get me on that ticket. So he goes off to try to get him on the ticket, and while he's working on that, Mr. Jordan comes back into Joe Pendleton's life and says, I'm sorry, Joe, but you can't be Farnsworth anymore. We have to find a different body for you. And he says, what? I can't be Farnsworth anymore. This is what you told me I could do. I have Betty. I have the prize fight. I have everything. And Mr. Jordan says, I know, but this is out of our control. Sometimes you can't control these type of things in life. There's nothing we can do about this. You don't have a lot of time. Now, this is obviously foreshadowing that Farnsworth is going to die again. But Joe doesn't understand this. He doesn't get what's going on. And he fights tooth and nail. And he says, no, I can make this work. This is what you promised me. And then as he's trying to walk out the door, he is stopped. And Mr. Jordan says, you're not going to get very far. Like, you don't have a lot of time. We have to start thinking about this now. And he says, just let me try it. Let me go out. So he goes out the door, and then he's shot by his wife and his secretary.
And now goodbye, Mr. Jordan.
And he starts to die, and then he ends up dying. His wife and the secretary end up hiding his body in the freezer, and no one can find it. Like, no one knows where he is. So the cops, his manager, Max, is looking for him because he needs to tell him about the big fight. And for days, he can't find him. And he asks his wife and the secretary, where is he? And they both claim that they haven't seen him in days. So he gets the cops involved. He gets like a private detective involved. And the private detective get them all in a room, and he's trying to figure out what happened. And of course, Max is talking to himself and looking around for Joe and looking around for Mr. Jordan and just basically looking like a crazy person because obviously no one else can see them but him. Actually, he can't see Mr. Jordan, and since Joe is now dead, he can't see Joe either. But he's walking around trying to find him. We see his lucky saxophone on the piano. And then Joe and Mr. Jordan enter the room, and they turn on the fights. And after they turn on the fights, they're listening to things. And then Murdoch is, it looks like he's going to get the upper hand in the fight, but he falls down, and he basically gives up. And Joe's like, why did he fall down? Why did he give up? He's a great fighter. What happened? And Mr. Jordan said he was shot. He was asked to throw the fight. That's the only reason why he got this this title fight, and he didn't throw it. He decided to keep fighting, so someone on ringside shot him. And they're counting, and he's not getting up. And he's like, why is he not getting up? And Mr. Jordan says, because he's dead. And then Joe says, well, I wish I could get into his body and finish that fight. And Mr. Jordan says, you can.
Murdoch was going like a buzzsaw. Why should he fold?
He was shot, Joe.
Shot.
By gamblers from the ringside because he wouldn't throw the fight.
Down. Murdoch's down. He finally dropped. Fell in a heap
dead.
like a rock.
So he then encompasses the body of Murdoch now, and he gets up and he ends up winning the fight. When they get back to the locker room, he says, okay, great, I won the fight. I'm done with Murdoch's body now. Let's go somewhere else. And Mr. Jordan says, we can't keep doing this. Like, we gave you a fair shot. We said you wouldn't be cheated. You got what you wanted. You won the fight. Now you have to stay in this body forever because I don't think you're ever going to be happy. We're just going to keep body jumping, and you're going to keep dying, and you're going to keep running into pitfalls and things that you don't like. So now this is who you are. You're a prize fighter. This is what you wanted. That's it. And, so Joe says, well, what about Betty? Like, I love Betty. Why I can't be with her if I'm Murdoch. And Mr. Jordan says, well, if it's meant to be, it's meant to be. If it will happen, it will happen. But we can't think about that now, basically. So Murdoch goes to take a shower, or Joe/Murdoch goes to take a shower, and then Mr. Jordan decides that he's going to erase any memory of Joe that Murdoch ever had, so now he can just live as Murdoch and not want to keep changing bodies.
You remember I said you wouldn't be cheated?
Yeah.
Nobody is, really. Eventually, all things work out. There's design in everything. You were meant to be champion. You are. You and Murdoch are one. You belong to each other.
So he changes him to Murdoch. And of course, when Murdoch gets out of the shower, he doesn't recognize who Max is, but he ends up asking Max if he could be his trainer anyway, because his other trainer was crooked. And then as he's leaving, he runs into Betty, who's there trying to find Max, and they strike up a conversation. Betty looks into his eyes and kind of realizes that, hey, I think this is Joe. So they walk off together, and the assumption is that they are going to be together and live happily ever after.
I don't seem to feel...
What did you do that for?
Your bandage was loose. I didn't mean to.
Well, it felt kind of good.
So that is the entire movie, basically in a nutshell. So what do I think of this movie? The acting in this movie is very good. Robert Montgomery, I think this might be the first movie I've ever seen with him. Claude Rains, like I said in the intro, amazing in The Adventures of Robin Hood. I liked him in Casablanca as well. I have not seen the Treasure of the Sierra Madre yet. This will be my first viewing when I watch it. So, but I'm assuming he'll be great then. Just what a resume for this guy. Such a fantastic actor. Oh, and also I realized when I was watching this that he's also in Mr. Smith Goes to Washington, which is also one of my favorite movies of all time. So, fantastic. He is just great in every movie he's in. James Gleason, who was nominated for Best Supporting Actor, he plays kind of the guy who's, he's hard to convince in the beginning, but he just walks around like he's confused all the time and does a great job also. Evelyn Keyes is very good. Edward Everett Horton, who is another I Love Lucy alum. Basically, everyone from this era was in I Love Lucy. I grew up on I Love Lucy, and when I'm watching these movies and I see like actors from I Love Lucy, it actually like warms my heart a little bit that I get to see some of these characters, some of these people do other things. So really good. My only complaint about the movie, and it's not really a huge complaint, but it's my only complaint, is that Joe, throughout the entire movie, doesn't really understand, I guess, like the significance of what's going on. Like, because as he's jumping bodies, he believes that he can just jump bodies forever. Just, I can help this guy out, then I can jump into another body, and help this guy out and jump into another body. He doesn't really seem to grasp, like, the ramifications of what he's doing. And he never seems to really understand fully that other people can't hear him or see him. And he doesn't really fully understand that that there's other people around him whose lives he's affecting, like, in a very meaningful way. And the fact that he never understands this, even towards the end of the movie, where the guy says, you can't keep doing this, it doesn't seem like he ever really wants to find a body that's a home to him. Like, Farnsworth eventually became that, but it was taken from him. But he doesn't really seem like he wants to settle down anywhere. Like he wants to be one person. He just wants to keep exploring all these other people. And that was a little off-putting for me. I don't know why. Like, I just wanted him to understand and grasp the idea through the whole movie. So it was a little infuriating, a little irritating for me a little bit. But besides that, the movie is great. The story is actually really good. I haven't seen this kind of story before, though. I did read that this movie has been remade like a bunch of times. But I haven't seen any of them. So this movie, the plot of the movie is really good. The story is very good. The acting is very good. And I just want to see everything that Claude Rains does, basically. Besides that, it was nominated for Best Cinematography. I believe the reason for that is because there's scenes in the movie where Joe and Mr. Jordan walk into a room, and they kind of like are opaque when they walk into the room, and then they slowly become like their actual figure. So maybe during that time, that type of technology and that type of special effects wasn't very easy to accomplish. And I actually appreciated it in the movie that they were able to do that, because it really hammers home the fact that not everyone's going to be able to see them, and not everyone's going to be able to hear them, because they are ghosts. They are not living in this world anymore. The scene in the sky when they're in heaven, I thought was very well done. Also, obviously, like fog machines and whatever, very good. All in all, I think this movie is a really, really good movie. I don't think it's a movie that I would watch again and again and again. I think it's kind of a one and done movie. At least for me, it's that way. Maybe this movie is someone's favorite movie and they can watch it many, many times over. But it's just one and done for me. I thought it was everything was very well done. He was like nominated for Best Actor Best Director as well. I could see that. The pacing of the movie is really good. All the shots are really well done. But all in all, I give this movie an 8.5 out of 10. I thought it was good, but I didn't think it was great. And there are definitely other movies that I've seen that will probably have a more lasting impact on me, and that I will want to watch over and over. And this just isn't one of them. So 8.5, still a solid score out of 10. Please join me next time when I review The Holiday Inn. Just a little teaser, it will not get an 8.5 at all. All right, thank you. I hope you have a great day.